Administration, faculty, family, superintendent, honored guests, members of the Board of Regents, friends, and classmates. Good morning, and welcome to the graduation of the Sacred Heart Cathedral Preparatory Class of 2013. Well, we made it. 316 students, 48 final exams, 8 semesters, 4 walkathons, 2 Bruce Mahoneys, and most importantly, 1 graduating class. When you put our class into numbers, 2 things become strikingly clear. First, numbers alone do not do us justice. Second, we end up sounding like a tagline for The Amazing Race. Incidentally, The Amazing Race is my favorite TV show, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But while we're on the subject, I think it's worth a comparison. High school is an amazing race of sorts, and we sit here today poised to cross the finish line. For those who don't know, The Amazing Race is a multi-leg race around the world, featuring teams of 2 who have to complete challenges and follow clues, all while attempting to enjoy the adventure of a lifetime and arrive at the pit stop first. The teams are the most fundamental part of this race. Without a teammate, one cannot hope to go on, and the last 4 years at SHC have proven that to be absolutely true. The most cohesive teams are not those who never bicker. Instead, the best teams rely on each other unconditionally. SHC is a community in which those trusting and loving relationships sprout up everywhere. And now that high school is coming to a close, we all have multiple teams who will never desert us. The teammates I've had on this race are the perfect example. My nerdy DePaul Scholar family, with whom I've rafted the American River and conquered senior seminar, know how I think. My theater family, students from the classes of 2010 through 2016, know and share my passion for the stage. And certainly, my Kairos Retreat family shares with me a deeply personal and spiritual connection. Together, these families, and yes, they are families, form my team, my support system, and are my best friends. Every leg of The Amazing Race offers each team new challenges to keep them on their toes, not the least of which is the detour, a choice between 2 tasks. I'm sure I don't have to remind you of the number of difficult choices you've had to make throughout high school. But it seems that an overarching theme of the last 4 years has been figuring out how to do just that. Through the trials and tribulations of choosing classes and colleges and finding time for a social life. The impending decision that seemed so significant at the time sometimes hasn't had any effect on the grand scheme of things. Perhaps it has. And this is another strong parallel to the race. Some of the decisions that seemed trivial at one moment may indeed change everything. For instance, who would have guessed that my decision to take AP Human Geography this year would have inspired my choice of college major? And, believe it or not, I didn't actually enter high school necessarily wanting to be a theater kid, but choosing to audition for Romeo and Juliet freshman year inspired in me a passion that I followed through to the very end. These decisions and more changed my high school experience and indeed my future, more than I ever thought they might. Next come the roadblocks. These pesky challenges that only one team member may perform are, as the name implies, obnoxious impediments to success, and we've all certainly had plenty. At some point, we've all taken on more than we can handle, or simply been given a challenge that we felt was insurmountable. Luckily, with those teams that we've created along the way, the support we need has never faltered. Thanks to all of you who have given me that in this race. We might say that the race ends today because the teams are going their separate ways, and it seems there are no more detours or roadblocks. It's been a whirlwind, but for the most part, I think we've all enjoyed it. The adventure that was high school has been completed. But what happens next? It's important to remember, I think, that though high school itself is over, the adventure of life is just now beginning. Perhaps high school was not the amazing race, but instead only the first leg of many. I know you are prepared, and I know you will rise up to the challenges. In part because of the adults who helped you on this journey, and in part because of your own experiences. The adults are one of my favorite components of this race. They've been through it before, except, surprisingly, they've made the decision to re-experience it every single year of their adult lives. Kudos to them. If there's anything I think we've learned in high school, it's to absorb everything our teachers, directors, and coaches tell us because they've lived it before. And without this adult wisdom, we would certainly not be so ready to take on the world. The best teams on The Amazing Race always learn from previous legs. And sometimes a team that has stayed at the back of the pack shoots ahead to win the whole thing. Whether you feel like you took high school by storm, with tons of APs, tons of friends, and tons of fun, or whether you feel like you could have done better, SHC was the perfect training course for the rest of the race. After all, if SHC is only the first leg, we've got an entire life ahead of us to take that #1 spot. I'd like to make the point now that no matter how hazy the path ahead is, the final pit stop is defined very clearly before us. When the race is over many legs from now, Sacred Heart Cathedral will be the finish line. Perhaps we won't all come back here physically as teachers, parents, or even necessarily for reunions. But I strongly hope that we will always come back to SHC in our minds and in our hearts. The first leg was entering to learn. Now, we're starting the next one, leaving to serve. Good luck. On your marks, get set.